I would like to thank the speakers, and I would like to to thank also our foreign guests and even the guests who are following us on streaming on the web. And then during this conference, I will thank our foreign guests personally, and we will try to speed up our proceedings, considering the many presentations that will be made. Okay, I would like to leave the floor to my boss, Carlo Fontana. He is the CEO of Agis, and as usual, he's with us, supporting us, and leading us. But he's given the magic touch that certainly, and he gives us a valuable contribution. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank Vincenzo Spera, first of all, because he's really um, committing himself for the success of your association. And thank you for letting Agis participate. And certainly, Assomusica is in a way revitalizing our 70-year-old association. Anyway, of course, Spera would like to change the whole world in one day, and this would be great, but this is not always possible, of course. And thank you very much, Vincenzo, for this initiative, because of its European dimension. Today, we do need to confront ourselves with our European counterparts, with other European countries. And the idea that Spera's idea to set up a network with European countries, I think this is the right way to take, and we have to go all the way down on this. As you all know, probably we are going through. I mean, Italy is going through a very special time with new legislation which is being discussed in Parliament. As you know, the bill on cinema will be ready by the end of the month. It will require the approval of the Senate after having been approved by the Chamber of Deputies. And here and live musical shows are also a part of this legislation and the bill. So this is very important. It's very important we do need new rules and legislation. And I have a dear friend of mine here who is responsible for live shows. You know that Agis plays a very important role within ministries and institutions, because at Agis we want to, of course, put on the table issues that should be discussed and that should be addressed differently. We would like to have a law with few but clear principles, clear-cut principles, and certainly Agis contributed to the lawmaking process. And I Well, I will not distinguish between folk music, live music, pop music, whatever. And actually in 1983, when I was a director of the Music Biennale in Venice. Um, I said that we can't have restriction of genre, and this is something that is obsolete. We cannot distinguish and differentiate different types of music. This would be a way of going backward. And in an association like ours, we must have all opinions live together. And of course, the opinions are different. But as a CEO, as a president, I can say that the line that we have established is we have decided to stop differentiating the genre, the music genre, and certainly this will be reflected also in the law that will be enacted by the Parliament by the end of the year. So we are at a stage of, we are developing something, we are developing legislation, and I'm convinced that in this afternoon will be an important opportunity to focus on certain issues and to make proposals. So I really wish you good work. And now I would like to read a letter that from CI president. He was invited, but he was not able to join us, but he is represented here, of course. I will read out this letter to you. Dear President, dear Carlo, I'm very sorry not to join you at the conference promoted by Assomusica on the occasion of the assembly, of the most important assembly of the producers and organizers of live music, which is also celebrating its 20 years of activity. Certainly, the theme of the conference is very dear to the association that I chair, and considering that live shows and live music plays a very important role. Especially for young people, because it represents an opportunity to have a very important and rich experience, which allows to have synergy and interact with the artist. Live show is actually revitalized at a time of digitalization, and the participation of CI will, Maestro Lavezzi will represent CIE, Vice President of the Music Committee, and also lawyer Paolo Goya and Roberta Luisi will also join you in the meeting as representatives of CIE. We've always paid attention to the organizers of live shows in the agreement with Assomusica, an agreement that should be reviewed, and we would like, of course, to review especially the terms and conditions to facilitate the organization of these live shows. And obviously, CI will always be present at the negotiation of a pact or agreement for live music. And there will be signature of new agreement with ANCI, and and these are the music activities which are supported by the municipalities. And certainly we want to support this sector, which is so strategic for the country. I hope that the attention of CI will be appreciated in due right. And we will certainly confront ourselves on this theme, and I'm waiting for the suggestions and recommendations from the proceedings of the workshop, and I wish you good work. Thank you, President Suga. Yes, I would like to thank him for this letter, and I'm very happy that the President, CEO, uh, sent this letter, and I hope that we will have results in a very important sector of the economy, which sees a growth that should not be stopped. And at this point, I would like to leave the floor to Dottoressa Luisa Sovieni from Cerved and Dottoressa Nicola Ferrante, who will illustrate the results of the research very shortly, because they've been working for months, and they have actually tried to investigate on the whole process of our work.
Grazie, buongiorno a tutti.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And in the first part, I would like to present a summary of the result of the survey analysis that was carried out in the sector of live shows. I would like to introduce Cerved, which is the most important Italian information provider, who has 350,000 million turnover, and we are quite well established in this sector. The market solution has technology that is well developed and is specialized for ad hoc design solutions. For this research, more specifically, there will be two parts. First part, where I will illustrate the results of this qualitative and quantitative analysis of the Italian market, and then the second part, where Dr. Nicola Ferrante will summarize the main conclusions, even from a qualitative viewpoint, the main conclusions of our study. The research was carried out to try and approach the sector with a certain methodology, and to assess the size of the sector, assess trends, and to assess this trend. And we wanted to identify the scope to see who are the operators working, or the stakeholders working in this industry. It was we identified the article codes to understand who are the stakeholders, and because we will see this later, but there is a high number of stakeholders that comply with the codes, or that fall within the codes, the reference codes of ATECO. And the key data, we have defined a perimeter or a scope which is oriented only to production and organization of live musical shows. So we do not include services that will be dealt with later on. We have 1,100 operators, firms, and for 640 million euros turnover, excluding related activities. This is certainly growing. In 2012, 2014, there has been an important increase, an important growth, almost 88%. And by 2016, we think that that there will be an even greater growth. The screening that we carried out stemmed from the stakeholders or the firms that are actually complying with or fall within article codes. Actually, overall, we have 36,123 firms, which includes many micro operators. And one of the first data showed a strong polarization between large stakeholders in terms of turnover and medium firms, and a very broad range of small firms, which are not necessarily joint stock companies. And we wanted to focus specifically on the companies that work in production and organization of music, of live shows. And finally, we have obtained 1,100 companies. And we have finally identified a sample of 204 enterprises. While as far as service suppliers are concerned, we identify 68 main providers that operate according to ATECO codes, and which account for the majority of the service providers. Okay, so we saw how the firms are, what is the breakdown of the firms, considering the enterprises that are members of Assomusica and not. And I would say that the firms that are members of Assomusica actually account for 10.7% of the total amount of all these firms. But in terms of turnover, they account for over 65.3%. And of these 1,100 firms we took into account, we should also consider the employment dimension and size, because we have seen that for the 204 enterprises, there were 1,100 or 1,500, 1,600 employees. And we are speaking of 4,000 employees overall, considering organization and production firms plus services firms. And then we should also include all related the companies working in the related activities, and we should also consider flexible employment. In this sector, the employment is stable, you know that, and identifying the flexible and mobile part of this of the employment, which is linked to single events. Well, this would, if we could identify this flexible employment, then we would have many more employees in the industry. And as regards the number by region, consider then 204 firms. Well, we think that this proportion, the 204, companies, are certainly the most important and include large companies as well as small companies. As you can see from this pie chart, you see that Lombardia, Lazio, and Emilia-Romagna are the main regions, and you will see that regions of the south play a marginal role. And looking at the breakdown by region of these companies, so members and non-members of Assomusica, you see that the presence of Assomusica members is equally distributed through the different regions. The proportion between members and non-members is the same in Emilia-Romagna, Lombardia, Lazio, and in Lazio there is a prevalence of the Assomusica members. Then we have analyzed the service providers, the 68 firms that I was referring to, with 2,500, 2,600 employees. And here we have more or less the same breakdown. We have a prevalence of Lombardia, Lazio, and Emilia Romagna, where these service providers account for almost 70%. So considering that these three regions, once again, this southern Italy plays a marginal role, and in this we should consider an aspect that will be certainly indicated in the conclusions. This may be due to the size of the firms, that is non-joint stock company and hidden economy, which is quite complicated. Okay, and then as to turnover, as I anticipated, I told you, the turnover is around 640 million euros for only for the organization and production of shows, for excluding whatever is downstream, that is services. Okay, and of course, this perimeter, this area will be extended, will be wider, including all the activities. And this is just the core of organization of music shows. And the members of Assomusica account for 418 million euros. The turnover is about 418 million euros. As I told you before, in the 3 years 2012-2014, there has been growth plus 7.9%, and we assume that there will be an increase by 7.8% in 2016, because there will be probably public financing. And another aspect that will be dealt with afterwards is due to the fact that usually the public attends major concerts. In terms of tickets sold, and this refers only to the tickets sold by the member companies, and they account for more 6 million tickets, and Lombardy and Lazio account for over 50%, and once again, a marginal role played by southern Italy. Now, the analysis of this trend, well, this is actually, this is a simplification of much more detailed analysis, which we cannot dwell upon here. And I would say that this table, this synthesis, this summary shows that it's difficult to draw a dividing line between large producers, medium producers, small producers, and large organizers and small organizers. There is sometimes some overlappings, and so there are overlappings of subjects, even though we have distinguished between large, medium, and small producers, and then major and minor organizers, and then those who provide services, audio, sound, light, video services, transportation, and so on and so forth. On the left, you will see that in each box we have operators or stakeholders that probably will not have that size. So companies or firms that don't actually have that size. But we have seen that there has been we have found the prevalence of larger firms in so far as service providers are concerned. From the viewpoint of qualitative analysis, and this will be my last slide, and then for the conclusion, I leave the floor to Dr. Ferrante. Well, the most important themes that were underlined are about cultural factors, and there was especially tendency of the public, of the audience, to divide between large events and small events, and especially since there is with the recession of the past few years, they have privileged small events instead of large events. But at the same time, there has been a revival of clubs, of search for unusual locations to organize small events. And while large events are usually preferred, or major events are usually preferred. So over the past few years, with the recession, even remarkable artists have decided to organize medium-sized shows to make sure they had the right audience. So to make sure that they didn't have an empty hall or an empty stadium, and but this actually. And I think that this was the right policy or the right strategy. Okay, from the legislative viewpoint, unfortunately, the main problem is that we lack specific regulations and rules, technical rules, and from the economic viewpoint, in the Strand, we have problems of costs, margins, profit margins, and payments downstream. Rather than those that work upstream. And sometimes there is a competition on prices, especially when with regards to service providers. And then there is the problem of online purchases and control of online purchases that will be dealt with by other speakers. I try to be short, and as far as conclusions are concerned, we have worked with Dr. Ferrante, and she will illustrate qualitative aspects in a greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. In our research, we have seen the following. Our sector is very vibrant. There is possibility for growth and development. There are lights and shadows, of course. And there is something we can do in order to improve the sector. We said that the sector is increasing. We have an 8% increase. The rate will continue this year, and perhaps we'll be doing better than 2015. But we have to say that we are a low return sector because there are few events. Only large companies can invest money and can have interesting return on their investments. Margins are quite low for SMEs that can be competitive only thanks to cost containment, better organization, and lower prices. The show business sector is not very homogeneous. There are two major groups. On one hand, a few number of large companies that can really defend their market share and return on investments, and a bigger and higher number of SMEs that are in the service sector. Also, this homogeneity is present all over the territory. In the south, in fact, we don't have many companies and we do not have many events. Southern Italy, therefore, is an area where we can develop both from a viewpoint of new companies and event organization. We don't have large structures, and this is something we have to take into account. But if we think about possible strategies for development in the future, in order to organize small events that are quite innovative and well, we can say that in the South there is much that can be done, and the employment level is quite interesting. We have carried out a sample study. We have been looking at those working in organization and production. And if we consider all the collateral ancillary activities, there are more jobs or job opportunities. In this sector, what is quite interesting is to look at the professional profile of the operators. They're all highly skilled. Their ability to provide top quality services is a key success factor. And it's very important in terms of the loyalty that we have seen between suppliers and procurement office. We have to repeat that the operator of the sectors are very skilled, and this is the only way in which these SMEs can really retain their clients. Think only of the relationship between the artist and the producer, service suppliers and organization companies. So not only we have a high professional profile in the sector, but we also have an innovative capacity in all sectors. Just think of research, the headhunters, so we're new artist or new performance structures, technical and technological tools, and innovation also in designing and organizing events. What I forgot to say is that SMEs working in the service sector, thanks to their high professional profile, can diversify their sector of activity and can extend their activity also to ancillary sector like opera, concerts, fashion shows, etc. And therefore they can survive despite the high competitive scenario, which is quite dynamic but very competitive, where income margins are very low. So we can say that our companies have these two important success factors, but on the other side, there is no legal provision in terms of a role and task definition. And this is linked to the problem of a lack of appropriate legislation regulating the sector. In fact, our sector has some specific peculiarities. Think only of the different type of jobs. We work at night when needed, so there are only temporary contracts signed. So there is a specificity of the sector, And of course, we have to consider the specificity in order to grow this, have the sector grow more. There is red tape. We know that the legislation in Italy is based on the dishomogeneous interpretation by local and regional administration. Well, I don't want to call it arbitrary interpretation, but personally, local interpretation, different dishomogeneous interpretation. And when you have to organize a tour of live performers all over Italy, you have to take into account that each town, city, or village is regulated in a different manner. So what is important is to have a homogeneous regulation, regulating Italy in the same way, in the same manner. So homogeneity is necessary. We do not have a big location for a big audience. So we thought about the possibility to create a sort of major poles, two centers, let's say in Italy, would be enough. In the south, we do not have spaces, but we could build appropriate location in order to solve the problem, especially considering the problem of SMEs and marginal areas. In fact, what they need is to have cycles of smaller events that are rather innovative. And we have to say that many performers, many artists, considering this fact that there are few locations all over Italy, decided a different strategy. That is to say, they don't go very often to large location, but prefer a medium-sized location. We have to consider the role of clubs. More in Europe than in Italy. In Italy, we do not have clubs, but we have similar structures. Clubs, thanks to their ability to propose innovative events, parties, special occasions, succeed in getting a highly selected audience that is willing to spend more. So SMEs, if they make the right choice, can really grow. But of course, innovation is a key success factor. Now, speaking of the income generated by the sector, we have to consider the musical events and shows consider a sort of trigger. So cultural events and music shows can attract audience and generate wealth. When an event is organized, the income produced is not only for the show or the event, but it also creates a sort of ancillary income for people who have who need hotels, restaurants, etc. So if we want to promote the general growth and income level of the country, we have to promote these events and shows just as generator of income. also, in terms of tourism, we have on one hand large events, on the other, we have cycles of minor events, smaller events that should be appropriately supported with the right concept and strategies, because in this way we can really promote those areas that are marginal, consider just the south of Italy, and SMEs working there. To conclude, I would like to speak about scouting. Scouting is in the hands of TV formats. And once a major artist have finished their career, our sector will depend on international multinationals. The creation of contests and national and European circuits with music labels, record labels, and patrons that are very sensitive to the problem is just moving in this direction. And I think that this is one of the main strategies in order to have new talents and to give really SMEs a possibility to grow and develop. A very last comment about the internationalization of our companies, the ability of our companies to work abroad. Considering the high innovative capabilities of our company, their high professional profile, they can really grow abroad if they are well supported in terms of training, education, and financial support. It is very important to consider the possibility of networking. In fact, we can have an economic support by MIBAC, by the economic community, by local entities, etc. Last but not least, a very important theme is the very high level of representativeness. Assomusica has 10% of the major companies as its members and a high percentage of the turnover. So because of its specific representativeness, it should not be ignored by institutions because it really can advocate the members of of the association, and companies should appeal to us to be supported in their activities and for the further development of the sector. Just think what Assomusica can do at a negotiation table. And last but not least, in terms of education and training.
Ringrazio veramente di cuore.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sovieri, Dr. Ferrante, especially for this very detailed analysis. And for the conclusions, I do not expect the conclusions to be so rosy and so optimistic because we did not speak to one another over these months. So it's your choice to reach those conclusions based on data and analysis that you made. So we feel very proud and honored to be part of this association. I think that this will be the certainly, this will encourage us to move forward in our future actions. And now I would like to, at this point, to leave the floor to Dr. Onofrio Cutaia, who is the General Director of the Ministry for Cultural Heritage and Tourism. I'd like to thank Dr. Cutaia, but I would like to thank Minister Franceschini, who would have liked to be with us today, but as we know, is very busy and being a minister, so um, he has different commitments. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Vincenzo Spera, because I think that it is very important and it's very interesting to start talking about these issues. And congratulations to the two ladies for their report, for their analysis, because this is how we should start talking about things. That is, we should first understand what we are talking about. And it's, well, obviously, these are what you are talking about, very important cultural sectors, very important sectors of the Italian culture. And of course, now there is a different approach, there is a different attitude, different from the past. And actually, it's right, it is right to have a different approach because we not to distinguish between one type of music and another, because all musics are to be respected and to be appreciated. So it's I agree that there shouldn't be a differentiation between the different music genre. Of course, so opera music, orchestra music, symphonic music, and but also pop music deserve exactly the same attention. And then I would like to thank Presidente Fontana, the president of AGIS, because I think that he had some wise words at this time. It's very important for the ministry to have stakeholder like President Fontana, and of course because technically speaking, this is the time when the government and the parliament play a major role, certainly play a major role in lawmaking. But of course, that is, we can propose solutions, but it's important that the voice of these companies and associations are heard. So the work that you are currently doing is very important, and I'm sure that you will find ways to cooperate, and to cooperate, each one having and playing his or her own role. But we will try to listen, and we will try to put this at the service of the players and of those who are on the playing field. And we'll try to have facilitators for the stakeholders, that is, the firms, the artists, and the audience that will be part of your cultural and economic projects. And since it was said, as it was said by Mr. Fontana, um, we cannot say, okay, yes, there will be projects, um, because actually in the showbiz, certainly in cinema, we have made um, steps forward. And as far as music is concerned, we are ready from a technical viewpoint. We are ready with the new projects, and the work that was done in the past is very useful. And to understand what are the outlooks for the future. And And at the moment, we are open to innovation in theater, in music. I would use a plural, referring to different genre or different types of music. And I think that it is really very important um, to get rid of barriers and fences. It's important that we finally have legislation or primary. It's very important that there is primary legislation establishing very simple principles, clear-cut principles that certainly safeguard the industries which make such an important contribution to our country from a cultural and economic viewpoint. Well, this is part of our duty, of course. We we actually have different tasks. There will be many actions taken, many activities, and certainly we're not harnessing, we're not trying to set barriers. And there are different tools that can be used, tax credits or other type of tools. Um, Tools that may be more appropriate and more suitable for certain activities. And we are here to see what should be done, what is best, and we must facilitate um, the life of the people who work in this field, in this industry. Well, with necessary controls and supervision, of course, because supervision is necessary when there are public funds at stake. So we should we should reduce sometimes the red taping that represents a barrier to the activity of these people, of these subjects. And obviously, the goal is to find as much audience as possible, as many viewers as possible. Certainly, this is something that cannot be done overnight, but and it's of course we will probably go through a kind of trial period, but so we have to go step by step, but certainly primary rules, basic rules are necessary and must be established, which provide certainties. So we must try and think of tools to have public companies to have intervention of the government and public authorities. So this legislation should provide for the intervention of state government and public authorities. Of course, we must know exactly what is being done by public authorities, and it is important to see how things work and understand who does what. First, we must find an agreement that is an agreement between the government and local authorities, that is, who does what. It's very important that there is a cooperation at the central level and at the local level. Obviously, there must be a possibility to speak to one another. That is, the different levels of government must speak to one another, and I mean central government or the national level and the local level. And
non può non venire, insomma, non può non essere
and of course, I should take into account the situation of different areas in our country. And I'm not speaking of the south necessarily, because in southern Italy there are many lively areas, so to say. In the north, there might be uh, areas which are more lively and more depressed. But anyway, um, of course, studies, surveys like the one that you did are very important to understand how we should intervene, and we should think about it. We should um, understand how to intervene, how to finance these projects without necessarily creating preferential lanes. But certainly it's important to ponder over it and to think about it carefully. And there is also an open issue, an open question on the table, that is new generations. And of course, this is a goal that any civilized nation should have constantly, not once in a year, once in a lifetime, or we should consider, yeah, if we do not aim at supporting and helping young generations, certainly we have failed. But here in this case, we should also consider the generations in between, because these generations run the risk of being left out of production and organization processes. And this is certainly one of the aims that we should have. Therefore, I apologize in advance because I have to leave at 4 o'clock, and I would like to thank you once again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was really pleased to know to be informed of your activities, of what you're doing. We are absolutely open and we are willing to help and support. And soon there will be an exchange of ideas. Um, Exchange of ideas. We will share information and ideas in view of development of this new legislation. And we do that, of course, to be prepared to provide to the political decision makers the size, the extent, and the dimension of the issues. And it would be important to start from the things that did not work. Thank you very much.
Ringrazio ancora.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kutaya. And before taking the floor, I would like to read a message that I received from Member of Parliament Silvia Costa, who is a chairperson of the European Culture Commission. Dear President, I'm very sorry not to be with you at this very important initiative, but as you know, I'm with an official delegation of the European Culture Commission at San Sebastian, which is the capital for culture 2016. However, I would like to express to you and the representative of National and European Association and the Music Association of the other countries my interest in promoting the production, recording, releasing, and distribution of music all over Europe, but not only as president, but also as standing rapporteur of Creative Europe. I think that we have to support European projects in order to have partnerships and joint cooperation and promote the mobility of young performers and circulate their works of art and organize internship and education and training of these young artists, and the European Commission is studying further activities. I'm very interested in being informed about the results of your meeting, also in the light of your cooperation and your experience in Creative Europe. And I will submit a bill in October. I would like to thank you for the battle you fought in order to have the year 2018, the year of culture heritage, heritage that is both tangible and intangible, and should provide also specific time and location for live music and live shows. Well, I think that this letter by Member of Parliament Silvia Costa is really very thrilling and supportive. At the end of the month, the European Commission will most probably approve funds to be allocated to initiatives that we have promoted together with our European partners. In the light of what Mr. Taya said, in order to really implement all what we said so far. And so this is a very important approach. Now I think we can have our video, and then I'll take the floor. So in this video, we try to summarize some themes that are open to the discussion. So the themes for possible future scenario. Assomusica will be 25 years old this year. And in this long journey of ours, despite the fact that Assomusica is a sector association, an association of the industry, we never looked only and cared only for our members and for our industry, but we also wanted to advocate and support the whole strand, that is to say, live performance that cannot be appropriately supported by anyone else. So over the years, so many things have happened. But there is one thing that I would like to underline here with you, because it's a little weird. And today we will have Mr. Carlo Moretti, who's a journalist of Repubblica. And yesterday, talking to him about this invitation to come here, he said we are changing location. And I found an invitation by Assomusica to a meeting of 20 years ago, and we were invited to discuss with Veltroni about music. Veltroni was the mayor of the time. So many things have changed, but not the law or bill on music. Why do I say this episode? Why do I tell you about this episode? Because we badly need something to change and the situation that is stagnating. Minister Franceschini, in presenting in Milan Creative Italy some months ago, with a strong belief and passion, underlined that this is an important, favorable moment, and not only for music. And we should really exploit this favorable moment using the network for all what it brings to us. And this is even more important in our case because we have one of the few opportunities where, on one hand, we have the European community that is drafting the new regulation, and on the other, also we have new legislation by the Italian government. As we have very authoritative representatives of Italian government at European level, if we really can succeed in linking up the two sides, that is to say, legislation at European level and legislation at the Italian level, we can really do our best, and perhaps it's the first time that Italy is not infringing on European legislation. Of course, I am a little bit exaggerating, but I want to say that this is a unique opportunity for our sector. Well, when we thought about this Congress, I, I had some difficulties. I want to be candid and frank. We have to consider that the very problem of an association like ours cannot be solved within the association, but need the outside cooperation, because only with a member of the outside world we can find the right ways to solve many internal problems and protect our values and protect our values from mere marketing laws, from pure marketing laws. We know that there are a lot of economic interests, invested interests, and pure marketing of a product of the mind, of the soul, of culture should be somehow regulated and protected. You have seen many events organized by Assomusica, and there are many scenes that we had not the time to show you because there is a lot of work that we are carrying on together with European colleagues that we invited here to give us their point of view, their vision, their situation, their country, and therefore they will show us the data of their countries as well. The association is going through the same problems that society at large is going through. There is a wider gap between rich and poor, those who work harder and harder in marketing and commercialization, and those that are really somehow left aside. It's not only a problem of Assomusica, so it's not a relative problem, but it concerns also the those who create, so the creator are also at stake. And as the friends of Chavez said, if we do not protect the creator, we cannot have spectators, and therefore we really cannot have no commercialization as well. So there are processes that have to be considered. Network has made us know music that might be only left to TV and radio labels. We have now a wider market, and we have live events and audience coming to live shows really have a different experience, which is not possible in other type of music enjoyment, let's say. In Brighton, in those days, there is one of the major world events where all these scenarios are discussed. And I don't want to speak too much because we have Greg Palmley that is with us from London. He's participating in this important meeting, therefore he couldn't come to Rome. And also we have Corinne Rigaud that will follow us from Brussels. So as we have seen, we have secondary ticketing. We have companies that have not started in the sector, like Amazon and the other major platforms that started entering our sector by selling tickets. We have ticketing companies that now have structures where concerts are organized. We have different stakeholders that work with artists, and we have multinationals that hire employees from other companies in a very disruptive way. Well, these are, I don't want to speak about the CI, so the company for right and copyright protection. CI is located in Italy and is very much present, and it's doing a very good job. These are just a few of the topics that are important. I'm speaking off the cuff because I never like to write what I say, so bear with me. I could perhaps make a short story long, just the opposite, instead of making a long story short. But I'll try my best and be short. Assomusica is dealing with many topics like setting up a network or other activities in order to offer new possibilities. There is now a new movement that we discussed as first with our meeting in Bari. The movement has the name Mares of the Night. And there were different candidates running for the city of Rome that have launched the possibility of creating this movement also in Rome. In Amsterdam, the mayor said that there is no life if it's not round the clock. In Berlin, people say that Time has come to buy land in Germany today because prices have gone down, and you could build the famous Cathedral of Live Music. There are also counselor for music that refer directly to mayors. So if they think of all this opportunity, they create new jobs for people like us who have been working all their life in this sector. And this is a message that I launched to my colleagues. We have to break the mold of where, so think out of the tank, because Italy is running behind. We are really, we like globalization, but we cannot comply with the laws regulating globalization. So we have to decide what to do.
Curiosità è anche uno dei motivi per cui
And I love my job because of the diversity of what we do. Recently, we launched an initiative. We're working with an English company analyzing the effects on cortisol. Cortisol is a stress regulating hormone. So we want to see the impact of music, because the experience in UK shows that if you listen to live music, the impact on cortisol goes down and stress goes down equally. So I think the scenarios are so wide, so different, so diversified, and they offer so many opportunities that we should really exploit them at best. A very last scenario, and then I conclude, but I would like to ask Mrs. Louisa to help me, because the president of CI, Filippo Sugar, spoke about it. What's the name? Is a ticket? How do you call it? Is dynamic price. Dynamic price is a magic word, is a buzzword, and the new scenario is represented by this new dynamic price or dynamic ticket. It has been used in Milan for the cinema. That is to say, it might happen. What happened to me 3 days ago? I go to the Alitalia website, 317 euros. I ask my secretary and say, can you buy the ticket? And it costs you 400 euros, 470 euros. Perhaps I'm a bit of a romantic, but I don't like this to happen. I think that what is very important is to put our passion, our heart, emotions are important in what we do. My mantra is we are emotion growers. We grow and harvest emotions. We will discuss this in our association, and of course, I will do what the associations say, but I can have my personal thought and try to do the best according to my personal feelings. But I think this is a problem. We have a particular task. When someone creates something magic where we are united, we go to a live show to sweat with others, to convey joy and happiness, to share joy and happiness. And I don't think that joy and happiness can really be long-lived if we have money interfering with our joys. So sorry, a final thought, and then I will close. I don't know why, but in the different Pope Francis preceded me to some congresses last year in a congress in Milan on music, and it was the time when we signed the Pact for Music. I was preceded and supported in my idea to support creativity, and I was facilitated by the words spoken by the Pope in his speech to the UN, where the Pope said that without creativity there is no future. And unfortunately, on these days, I really have to borrow the words spoken by the Pope and go back some years ago. And I quote Mrs. Merkel and the President of the European Commission came to the Pope. And during the meeting, the Pope underlined the following, and I quote, "We cannot be exclusive, we have to be inclusive. We cannot create a gap, we have to build bridges. We cannot modify reality and have our civilization grow without a dream." And therefore, there is a singer that had a very important role, Amalia Jackson, that in 1963, and I have to read the song, I don't remember it, sang for Martin Luther King at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, "How I Got Over." And then she sang shouting to Martin Luther King that read his speech on a piece of paper, "Martin, tell them about the dream." At that point, Martin Luther King threw the papers away and spoke off the cuff. And what happened on that day, everybody remembers. Thank you.